All right, good morning, Coastal Bend. Meteorologist Carly Smith here. This is your Weather Impact Live update. Here are the three things to know, what we're going to be focusing on. We've got dense fog inland. That's still taking place. Clearing skies into the afternoon. We have that stratus layer kind of taking shape across Corpus Christi. You can tell, though, in this tower camera view, this is a live view now at 9:10 a.m. That layer is very thin. It's a very thin kind of stratus layer that's going to break apart. We'll have more sunshine this afternoon. Our southern counties still have a decent shot at moisture, or a lot of moisture, a decent amount of moisture, and that brings them a decent shot at some rain. But high pressure is going to really work to keep us nice and hot and humid. But let's talk about that fog first. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. We'll break down everything you need to know about radiation fog in just a few minutes, seconds really. Good morning, everyone. It's meteorologist Carly Smith here. This is your live video update. It's a little earlier today, 9:11 a.m. We're still dealing with some really dense fog across the region. In fact, for some reason, I don't have the current visibility. That's really what I wanted to pull up first. So you'll see that here. We've seen improvements now through Kingsville and Robstown. Visibility is about 5 miles. But through Alice and along 281 up into Live Oak County, as well as into Bee County on 181, and then I-37 in between George West and Beeville, fog, lots of fog, dense fog. That is set up across the area. So now we'll go back to this graphic. If you were watching just a few seconds ago, we'll talk about how radiation fog forms. So meteorologist Kristen Walla helped design this graphic. We've had a version of it with our old graphics system as well. But what you see is radiation fog forms when the air temperature falls. So the air temperature is on the right, the dew point's on the left. The dew point is fairly consistent. Granted, our temperature and dew point are not this low. It was around 77, 78 degrees this morning, but the air temperature falls to the dew point temperature. That's how you get radiation fog to form, because the air becomes saturated. The dew point is essentially the temperature that the air needs to be in order for saturation or condensation to take place. So what we see here is that tends to happen on cooler nights when there's clear skies and humid air, and then on top of that, light wind. So we've had all of that in place, especially this morning. And this tends to happen more inland. Right along the coast, yes, it's humid, but it's naturally a little warmer, and there's a little bit more wind mixing with the ocean or the Gulf of Mexico, right? Versus inland, it gets much calmer and it is much less cloudy as well. We get some clouds coming off the Gulf of Mexico that kind of inhibit that fog as well right along the coastline. So this is a little early for our foggy season. Typically that starts October, and then November, December, January, February, March, April, when our temperatures are naturally cooler. We tend to get more of that radiational fog. Excuse me. Sea fog forms a little differently. That's when we have that also on this graphic. Let me continue to play that. That's when the warm air above the water cools off and the dew point actually rises, you get that sea fog to form. So that's a little different. That happens more so in the heart of winter. So that would be December, January, February, March timeframe, sometimes into April. That impacts morning surfing behind those cold fronts, so you get the sea fog that develops. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now in September. It's not October yet. This is the coastal flooding season, so we have seen a little bit higher tides with the full moon out. There actually is a tiny partial eclipse tonight with the full moon. But that's really our main threat. And then, of course, the tropics still very active throughout the month of September. Peak hurricane season was September 10th. And so we are trending down, but still a long way to go until the end of November. Now, typically October is when it starts to wrap up here in the western Gulf of Mexico. So regardless, this is just a look at our hazards that we tend to have. Right now, here's a look at the rainfall. So this is one of the reasons why our areas inland, especially Kingsville and then Alice, is dealing with the radiational fog. There's a little bit of extra moisture out that way from the rain that fell yesterday. So Kingsville picked up nearly 4 inches of rain on the north side, around 2 inches of rain at the Naval Air Station. A lot of rain through Kingsville yesterday. Hopefully conditions have improved out there. Hey Lisa, good morning. Thanks for watching. So on this Tuesday, we're seeing the cloud coverage. That will break apart. We'll see sunshine this afternoon. Air temperature 93, heat index around 106 later on this afternoon. So here's the fog forecast by 10 a.m. All of that fog should be cleared out. There is a chance we get a little bit of fog to develop tomorrow. I don't think it will be quite as dense, especially because we won't have as much fresh rainfall, creating extra moisture at the surface. But you can see inland some patchy fog is still expected to develop with those calm winds out there, southeast only about 4 miles per hour. That will clear out again, and we could see similar conditions heading into Thursday. Yeah, there we go. So anyway, a little bit of fog through the morning. Here's what we're dealing with on our satellite radar imagery. So this is our visible satellite, where we're starting to see some convection, some bubbling cumulus clouds popping up. Rain showers developing. So right around Baffin Bay, that's kind of where I've had the target zone for some rain throughout the morning, is the Baffin Bay area. This is drifting, let's see, from the south to the north and a little bit northwest. And so these showers, if they hold up, actually could impact Corpus Christi. They're moving a little bit more north than the activity was yesterday, but it's much more spotty than it was yesterday. You can see these storms kind of fall apart and pick back up. More of the action is going to be a little bit more south. That's why throughout the morning I was saying kind of Baffin Bay up toward Freer and south of there. This action is going to help create storms that direction. I don't see a lot of that shaping up for Corpus Christi, but can't rule out a spotty shower. So yeah, we have the moisture taking place. Temperature right now 81 degrees. We're above the dew point, so that's why our fog is starting to clear out. Here's a look at Futurecast. So you can see it initiating kind of, sort of, all right. Port Aransas not getting a storm exactly right now, but you can see just some spotty showers weakening. I think they will weaken pretty quickly as they move inland. Not yesterday, there was more of a boundary set up that the storms are kind of popping off on. Today, we don't really have that same boundary in place, but right along the coastline and then near Baffin Bay, even into areas from Kingsville to Alice to Freer, we could see some of those spotty showers. Falfurrias may be kind of one of those target zones, as well as Hebbronville, as we head into the late afternoon and evening hours. So again, the southern half is where I anticipate more rain than the northern half. A little gusty overnight. That will help mix the fog out. But here's why we still have a chance of rain today, tomorrow, and even a little bit into Thursday. We still have a lot of available moisture in our atmosphere. Now, it's not as much as we saw yesterday, but it's enough for a pop-up shower to develop. Once we get into Friday, high pressure parks itself over Texas. That limits our rain chances. I don't see much in the way of rain as we head into the weekend. Now, as we shift to next week, a few kind of sea breeze showers may start to pop into the area. This high pressure is going to play a role in the tropics. So right now, National Hurricane Center not monitoring anything in the Atlantic except for Tropical Depression Gordon. It has a name because it did reach tropical storm strength before it weakened back to a tropical depression. So Gordon is going to drift north, not cause any issues for the mainland United States. So for us, with no activity there in the tropics, our wave heights are pretty flat. This is out at the buoy, 1 foot waves every 5 seconds. So not a lot of action. Water temperature 84 degrees. Tropical activity can still develop. Anything above 80, that's prime for tropics. Now it looks like our conditions stay pretty flat even into the weekend. Now there's a little bit more wind, it looks like, as that high is moving offshore. So we could see 1 to 3 foot waves heading into Sunday, Monday, but it's still too iffy on the forecast. I went ahead and just kept it 1 to 2. Now, if anyone checks out wave forecasting, hey, Benzo Garcia, if anyone checks out the wave forecast, there's been a little bit of hype across something developing in the Gulf of Mexico. That's still several days out. So you see conditions staying pretty flat through the weekend. This is Saturday. Wind picks up a little bit. We could see some 3 foot wave swells trying to chop up, but it will be choppy because it will be wind driven, basically developing right near our coastline. This is where you start to see wave action ramping up into next week. So around Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, we will be watching for the potential of something to try to develop there into the Western Caribbean, and that could drift into the Gulf of Mexico. The exact placement of where this drifts does have a lot to do on where this high pressure sets up, whether it tracks north or south. At the same time, there's also a cold front that is going to be dipping across the eastern United States, and I think it's going to tap into that more so than the high pressure is drifting, but it's going to get pushed south, more so over the Bermuda, the latest look, and that would likely, I don't think this scenario is going to play out, but it's too far out to really say for certain. This is one of the models. So this circle highlighted area is where we're watching. So a lot of vorticity showing up. That's actually kind of a weak front setting up. We start to see around Sunday maybe something trying to develop. This is where the vorticity starts to spin off and try to develop into something. So it would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week. We'll be watching the Gulf of Mexico, but a lot of factors in play to figure out where exactly anything may or may not develop. So remember, I showed this a lot during first edition. Past a week out, which is where we're at, it's really poor forecast, and that's why the NHC doesn't start to even alert us. Actually, adding it to 7 days is something new. Last year, I believe, 2 years ago, we only got 5-day outlooks on the chance of development. So once we're in more of a weak range, which we're close for any potential development, National Hurricane Center may start flagging it, but we're more than a week out at this point. So really poor forecasting still. Unfortunately, I wish it was better, but we're just too far out. So in your 7-day forecast, here's what we are anticipating. A chance of rain, very low opportunity for rain Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Not as much available moisture as yesterday, so I don't see those rainfall totals or the rainfall rate being quite as high as it was as the storms that passed through Kingsville yesterday. Likely would stay under 2 inches, not the 2 to 4 inches per hour that we saw yesterday. And so that's just going to trend down through Thursday. Then the high pressure sets up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. High pressure does start to drift a bit more to the east, and so we may see some sea breeze action returning there on Monday. Fall kicks off, still not going to feel like fall. So, yeah, well, we love South Texas, don't we? Anyway, that's all I have for this live update. Thank you all for watching. Yeah, there will not be another one at 10 a.m. unless something urgent calls for it, which I don't see that in the forecast. So don't forget to check out our app. You can get all the latest news there as well. KIIITV.com/app is one way you could download that. Thanks for watching. I'm meteorologist Carly Smith.